Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the best recordings of Rachmaninoff's The Bells. Oh, the bells. Don't you love the bells? What is the bells? Well, for those of you who are not Rachmaninoff psychos, as some of us are, the bells is a choral symphony. And I remember so vividly the first time I discovered this piece because, you know Rachmaninoff, you know the Paganini Rhapsody and the Second Piano Concerto, and then maybe you get to the Second Symphony, and then you realize that there's this choral extravaganza that doesn't get played very often. And it's based on the poem by Edgar Allan Poe, which is fabulous. You know, hear the loud alarum bells, brazen bells, what a tale of terror now their turbulency tells. In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright. Too much terrified to speak, they can only shriek, 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 shriek. No. Oh, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a fabulous poem. It turns out that Rachmaninoff did not set Edgar Allan Poe's actual poem, but a free translation into Russian by Konstantin Balmont. And it's not really much like Poe's version at all. Of course, it lacks all the alliteration that Poe uses, because in Russian, I guess it doesn't work as well. Although the word for bell in Russian, kolokola, the bells, is really quite alliterative in its own way. But the poem was perfect for Rachmaninoff, with his obsession, first of all, with bell sounds in all of his music, and with the Dies Irae tune, do 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 ba ba, that tune, that Gregorian chant from the Day of Judgment, that is so perfectly suited to the funeral bells in the last movement. I mean, it was just made for this guy, and he created an absolute masterpiece. It's totally a stunning masterpiece. So why doesn't it get performed? Well, I think there are a lot of reasons. First is that it's in Russian, which means that outside of Russia, it's not going to get a lot of play. However, in English-speaking countries, it works perfectly well translated into English. I know there will be some people who say, well, I prefer the Russian, and say, who cares what you think? I mean, honestly, it makes no difference whatsoever what language it's in. I wouldn't mind in Swahili as long as the words sort of fit the rhythm of the music. And they happen to do it very well. You can arrange an English retranslation with some of Poe's original and some not that works absolutely great. It's just great. And aside from that, it's for a huge orchestra. I mean, it's a big orchestra. I think 6 horns and an upright piano and celesta and an organ. And you need a big chorus. You need 3 soloists, a tenor, a soprano, and a bass. And the kicker, well, there are 2 kickers. One is that it ends quietly because it ends with the funeral bells, a dark, lugubrious, gloomy, but ultimately at the end transfigured and peaceful and quite lovely conclusion, but slow. So it's kind of like Tchaikovsky's Pathetique Symphony in that sense. And then it's only about 37 minutes long, 35 to 37 minutes. So you get this huge apparatus together, and it's all over. I mean, it goes very, very quickly. It's very surprising that way, and so it's a lot of work. The choral parts are extremely difficult, especially in the alarum bell third movement, where they're very, very densely chromatic and they're hard to carry off cleanly. And so it doesn't get played. I've only seen it performed live once, and I look for it because Rachmaninoff thought it was his masterpiece. And although composers are, for it was his favorite piece, maybe not his masterpiece, I don't know, it was his favorite work. And although composers are more often than not wrong about these things, they are entitled to their opinions. But I think Rachmaninoff was right. I think this is a piece that absolutely encapsulates the best of him. It has wonderful melodies. It is gloriously scored. It's deep and moody and, well, just very poetic. It's a great, great piece. But for all of those reasons, it hasn't been recorded all that frequently, not compared to the really popular Rachmaninoff stuff. And those recordings that do exist, a lot of them really, really suck. I mean, there's just a lot of bad performances out there. So I have I have come up with, I don't know, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, I think 7 or 8 of them that are really pretty good and that are worth listening to. But whichever ones you pick, you absolutely have to hear this work. I mean, it is a knockout of a piece. It should be by any rights as popular as like Carmina Burana or Belshazzar's Feast. In fact, it would be kind of fun to hear it done with Belshazzar's Feast because they're both the same length, about 35 minutes. And for like lots and lots of people, all screaming and yelling, it would be a great program to see Belshazzar's Feast on like the second half and this on the first. So you could end the first half quietly and then the second half loudly. That would be fun. Of course, the singers might probably drop dead of exhaustion by the time it's over, but who cares? That's their problem. We'd have a good time. So let's get straight to the recording, shall we? These first two are English language versions, and very, very good ones. I happen to just adore the opening of this piece. I think it is one of the most wonderful, wonderful openings. And the entry of the tenor, the first thing you hear the voices with the word listen. And, each movement is a different kind of bell, in case you didn't know that. It begins with the silver sleigh bells, then the golden wedding bells, then the bronze alarm bells, or whatever they're made of. I don't know, some metal thing. And then the deep, dark funeral bells. And that's how it ends. And, oh, my God, the progression is so masterfully handled. But the tenor comes in with the word listen, or in Russian, shlish. It's just, and then the chorus erupts, listen, like that. In fact, I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to play you the opening. Once you hear this opening, if you're not hooked, then there is no hope for you. I mean, really, this is the Slatkin recording. It's a wonderful recording. Slatkin was St. Louis. Back in the day when, they were making those wonderful Russian repertoire recordings, which was always a Slatkin specialty. And this comes with the Isle of the Dead. It's on Vox, or Moss Music Group at the time, MMG, but Vox Cum Laude, whatever. At this point there were like 300 different names for the same performance on the same label. Now it's part of Naxos, so I have permission to play it. And I am going to give you the opening of The Bells, and trust me, you're going to love it. I mean, just love it. It's phenomenal. So here is the opening, The Silver Bells. that just great? It's just wonderful. And then, of course, you've got the alarm bells, which are unbelievably chilling. I'll play you the opening of that too. It's just so much fun the way it starts. It's so graphic, wonderfully illustrative of this topic, and the choral parts are really, really tough. I mean, they're very, very tough. You basically just scream and yell and moan a lot. You can get away with fudging it, but it's so much better if you actually sing the notes that Rachmaninoff wrote. Here are the alarm bells. So you get the point, right? I mean, you want this. You got to have this. And this is really a very good one if you don't mind the text in English. I don't, of course, but then again, I'm English. So, those of you who are speaking neither Russian nor English may well prefer the original Russian, and I'm totally with you on that. I totally understand that perspective. Also surprisingly good is this one, Ormandy's, which you wouldn't even know is on this CD because it says Alexander Nevsky, which is also on the CD. That's a very good coupling, by the way, as well. Here, of course, the Nevsky is in Russian and the bells is in English, something I got mixed up when I did my Nevsky talk, because I always get these things mixed up. But, Ormandy was a fabulous Rachmaninoff conductor, and it's a wonderful recording of the bells, hopefully to be remastered someday and reissued. But it's nice to know that it exists and you can find it. Most of us who are bellniks, for our modern digital bell thing, probably got this one, Ashkenazis with the Concertgebouw. And I mean, it's the Concertgebouw. Ashkenazi knows his Rachmaninoff as well as anyone possibly can. I'm not a fan of this performance. I think the sonics are rather cloudy. The Concertgebouw can be kind of muddy, and I think the sound here is a little bit muddy, and I think the performance lacks a bit of punch and fantasy and color and all of those things the music has. It's not terrible by any means, but if you know these other ones that I'm talking about, I think you'll find this a little bit colorless and maybe a little routine. Sorry, Vlad. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But I have to mention it because I know that if I don't, I'm going to see in the comments everyone saying, you didn't mention Ashkenazi, or I like Ashkenazi. Well, if you like Ashkenazi, I am telling you, it's fine to like it, but you can do better. And that's part of my job, is breaking it to you as straightforwardly as I possibly can. This was an interesting performance that came out. It's very, very good. And it's live. It's exciting. This is Jose Cerebrier, who's great in music like this. This is the live in Moscow with the Russian National Orchestra from the first International Rostropovich Festival. And the performance is really very, very fine, other than I think the second movement's a little on the sluggish side. The wedding is a little bit, weddings usually start late, you know what I mean? And this one is about a minute later than it needs to be. But otherwise, it's a pretty good performance. And, there aren't so many of them around. And you also get, Shostakovich's Festive Overture and Glazonov's Chant du Ménestrel, whatever that's called, for cello and orchestra, which is only 4 minutes long. And then Mussorgsky's Entr'acte from Act 4 of Chovanshchina. and Rachmaninoff's vocalies, orchestrated by Cerebrier himself. So it's like a nice program, a very enjoyable program, and it has the bells, but sort of like the Nevsky, unless you look very, very closely at it, you would never know the bells are even in here because it says live in Moscow. Oh, there it is, Rachmaninoff, the bells. All right, it does say that. Pardon me. I mean, I'm mistaken, but it's packed in with other stuff. It's just a little odd. A wonderful recording, which of course I have to mention, is Nimi Yarvi. Yarvi was, he's really good in this kind of stuff where he just lets it rip. And it does rip. It's really, really exciting. A beautiful performance with the Scottish National Orchestra and Chorus. This is the latest incarnation of it. The previous incarnation was an odd sort of pinkish color, if I'm not mistaken. And you only got the bells with the vocalies or something. Now it has the dances from Alecco and the Capriccio Bohemian Caprice, which is fun to have. But this is a very, very good bells, and it has a very dark, brooding finale. Yarvi is usually a zippy guy. He sort of goes through things quickly, but he really milks that finale for all of its darkness, and it's very, very effective. A beautiful, weighty finale. It makes the piece really sound quite symphonically gripping. So this one is definitely worth considering. A lot of us, before the digital era and before it was really possible to get Russian recordings, of which there are quite a few, and most of them suck. And we'll get to the good one, which you know what it is, but it's coming. But, Svetlanov did one. Polyansky did one. Gosh, everything he did was just awful. He was a terrible conductor. He was a choral conductor who did things he never should have touched. And there's a good one on Naxos, a good one with Anisimov and the National Orchestra of Ireland. That one is pretty good. It's coupled with the rock. It got a good review on ClassicsToday.com from Victor Carr, and I enjoy that performance. I really do. But before those Russian ones, if you wanted to get the bells, and before the digital era, the one you had to get was Previn's. And this is very good. This really has held up well. It was very well recorded. It's with the London Symphony Orchestra and Chorus, and you've got Sheila Armstrong, who's sang in everything anybody ever did back then, and Robert Tier and John Shirley Quirk. I mean, I would rather have a Russian bass, I suppose, than Shirley Quirk, but he's perfectly fine. And it's a very, very good performance. And what's more, the timings of this Previn recording are almost identical to the timings of the ultimate Russian performance. And I mean, timings don't give away everything, of course, but in a choral work, they sort of do, because there's not a lot of room to futz around. I mean, you're accompanying the chorus, the words go at a certain pace. So, you learn more from tempi than you would otherwise. Kondrashin. This is the Russian recording that everyone has to have. It's totally hot and splendid with a fabulous Russian chorus. It's interesting to compare the two because they have, like I said, absolutely identical timings just about, and the interpretations are quite similar. And I don't think it's all to Previn's disadvantage. First of all, the sonics are much better. This is an melodious special. It sounds like it was recorded in maybe the Holland Tunnel or someplace like that. I mean, but you get more than enough of it. I mean, it's nice and it's loud and it overloads at the climaxes, just like you expect in Russian recordings from the early 60s or around that period. And you got to have the Kondrashin somehow. It was also issued on RCA. It's been on 400 different labels because Melodia licensed everything to everybody simultaneously. They were kind of like Beethoven selling all of his music to the same publisher, or to different publishers, but all at the same time, that kind of thing. So Kondrashin is a must. Previn is still really, really good and worth considering. However, there is one absolutely, totally fabulous reference recording of the bells. And you're going to die of shock when I tell you which one it is, but here it is. Simon Rattle with the Berlin Philharmonic, coupled with a really hot symphonic dances. The bells is live. It's a live recording, and wow, it is totally, totally hot. I mean, absolutely fabulous. And I was, could have knocked me over with a pin, because many of you know how I feel about Mr. Rattle's work, and his work in Berlin was totally typical of how I feel of his work generally. But the ears don't lie, and it's our job to tell the truth. And the truth is, this is the best goddamn recording of the bells that you're ever going to hear in wonderful live sound. It is tremendous. It is a thrill ride from first note to last. And I can only shake the hands of everybody involved in it. Let me tell you who the soloists were. Let's see, it's Luba Orgadasova, who's of course great, Dmitro Popov, pardon me. The Slavic people changed spellings at the drop of a hat, the same names. And Mikhail Petrenko, the bass, with the it's the Berlin Radio Choir, which is a spectacular chorus. And they just go to town on the damn thing. I mean, I could have predicted it maybe, because you may recall Simon Rattle did an earlier recording of the symphonic dances, which was very, very good. It was one of his earliest recordings, in fact, and one of EMI's early digitals. It was slow, but it was very, very atmospheric and very good. This is not slow. This is in Kondratian territory. This is right where it needs to be. And heavens to Betsy, it really is special. And I'm always so happy when my expectations are confounded. I hope you are too. That's one of the joys of doing this, is when somebody who hasn't given you a lot of pleasure over the years, but has recorded quite a lot of stuff, gets up there and just knocks a home run straight out of the park. It's a grand slam. Yes, it is. So if you want to get a great recording of the bells in modern sound that does everything the piece is supposed to do, that will totally convince you that this is the great masterpiece that Rachmaninoff believed it was, get this one. Simon Rattle and the Berlin Philharmonic. You gotta love them. You just gotta love them. So anyway, there you go. That's the bells. I mean, like I said, there are others out there. This is enough. This is not the kind of piece where I can tolerate less than really first-rate performances. It deserves nothing less. It truly deserves nothing less. It's such a wonderful, wonderful work. And you sit down there, look at the words, listen to the music, and fall in love. You can't ask for more. So keep on listening, folks. Make America classical again, and thank you for joining me. Take care.